Alright, so the first thing I did was take a bunch of pictures of the inside. That way I'd have some references for putting it back together. The next thing I did was tape off or remove all of the surfaces I didn't want to get painted. Okay, here it is, sanded with 400 grit sandpaper. Then I've used the Scotch Guard, or Scotch Brite or whatever it's called on it. And then I rubbed denatured alcohol over it, so it's lost most of its shine and it's looking kind of rough around the corners. But it's pretty smooth, and it's going to look good after I paint and or prime it and then start adding the paint. Alright, the stuff I was priming with is the Rust-Oleum 2x Ultra Cover Flyaway Primer that says also bonds to plastic. It's not the stuff I was after. I'd watched a couple other YouTube videos, and what I was looking for was a paint adhesive that you spray on clear and then you basically spray paint over that. Home Depot didn't have it, and the guy swore up and down, this is the stuff you want. So, and it also read some other stuff on if you spray paint your color over white, it's supposed to give you like a much brighter end result, which is kind of what I want. So I thought, okay, I'll give this stuff a try and we'll see how it goes. So this is what I'm using to prime with, and I did, I think maybe like 3 coats of this, like 2 to 3 minutes apart. So I would just spray it from all the angles, wait 2 to 3 minutes, and then come back over it, spray it from the angles again until most of the surface area was covered and I couldn't see the gray of the original color coming through. So got that done. Now I'm going to give it a light sand when it's all dry and then put on the final color. Alright, here's after the first primer coat. So this is just a few minutes after I just sprayed it on. It's still wet, but you can see how it looks. Looks pretty good. That's just a few light sprays across the entire surface of the plastic, and the underside obviously is not done. Alright, so I've got this shell here, and I've got a couple coats of the primer on it that's made for plastic. And you know, there are small imperfections from just spray painting it where maybe a piece of dust got on the plastic while it was being sprayed on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of like 400, 600 grit sandpaper. I'm going to get it wet, and I'm just going to lightly rub it all over everything. It's going to take, right now it has kind of a dusty feel. It's going to take all that off, and it should really smooth this thing up. So I'm going to go do that now. While I do this, the next can of spray paint that I'm going to be using, which is my World Rally Blue, is soaking in a bucket of hot water. And what that does is it heats up the paint, it thins it out a little bit, and it makes it spray so much better. So I'm going to end up getting a better coat on here when I go to spray it. The paint that I'm going to be using for the final coat is this. It's kind of like a weird can. I ordered this on Amazon because I wanted a very specific color. The color is the Subaru World Rally Blue. It's the same color as my 2015 STI, and that's what I was going for. I want it to look exactly just like that, so I figured I'll just go and get automotive paint right from the source, and so this is what I got. Paint started to crack in all these corners, and I have no idea why. I followed these instructions to a T, but I am not okay with that, so I need to figure this out. Okay, at this point I basically had to sand all of these things off and get it down to the base again, and then reapply the paint. This time just super light dusting coats with long waits in between, so I wasn't putting wet paint over wet paint, and that seemed to do a lot better. After I put on 3 or 4 coats, I then sanded it down with 600, 800, and 1000 grit sandpaper, working my way up. Let the sanding begin. After wet sanding it, I then added a few more layers of paint. It's got a nice shine to it, but we haven't added a clear coat yet. This is just the spray paint. Alright. So here it is. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It's a little shinier than I expected, but I still like it. The paint came out pretty good. There are a few spots I'm not super happy about down into these corners. I don't know if you can tell. There's like a little bit of what they call crazing, I think, where the paint like started to wrinkle up for whatever reason. A little bit more in here, but I don't know. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I got sick of trying to sand all those places out and repaint and then sand them out when they would come again and repaint. So I eventually just said, good enough, but there it is. That's how it turned out. Now I'm going to put it back together. I ordered the gold block nuts and the blue rubber switch guards from Banggood, and I think they add a nice finishing touch to the whole job. Since painting it, I've taken it to Megadrone X and some other races, and the paint has held up okay. I definitely chipped it in a few places, and if I were to do it again, I don't think I would use automotive paint, or I'd at least find a primer or paint adhesive that works better to get the paint to stick and prevent the crazing, because that was a real pain to sand out. I hope this video taught you something. Thanks for watching.